Hello and welcome back again. It's again Thursday, and I'm very happy to have one of my dear friends from England. Welcome, Colin Hampden-White from the
Thank
Three
you very
Drinkers.
much. It's a
Pleasure having you here.
It's great to see you, actually. I mean, I know we can't actually sort of sit in the same room together, but this is nearly as good. You look just as good.
As long as the internet is good, spot on. Well, we should have seen us 2 weeks ago at IWSC.
Yeah.
We've just been talking backstage about it. We will get back to this topic, but first of all, I know it's almost a sacrilege, but may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Colin Hampden-White, and I suppose I consider myself to be a journalist, and that crosses everything, whether it be photography or writing or presenting. Everything that's incorporated in communication about the world of spirits, especially whiskey. I've got a penchant for whiskey, but spirits in general, and wine actually as well. I write about fine wine.
So you're quite an all-rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I write about fine wine with Condé Nast, and there's a new magazine from the IWSC called Club Onologique. I advise them on that. I write specifically on spirits for that magazine, but I love writing about wine. It's something that I grew up with. It was the first alcoholic beverage that really I got to know from a heightened level, sort of Clark Grace Bordeaux and stuff like that. I was very lucky that I went to a monastic school, and monks love wine, and they get given a lot of wine at the beginning of the term time, so much so that my housemaster would share that wine with his sixth formers. We were of age, so it was no problem. But yeah, we would on a Thursday, odd day of the week, but yeah, on a Thursday like tonight, he would set his sixth form aside and teach us the simple things, like what's the difference between Burgundy and Bordeaux, and we would taste and learn. And I'd go back home and horrify my parents because they knew absolutely nothing. My parents were heathens, really, to fine wine. And they'd have their sort of 17-year-old child sort of complaining that the wine was rubbish, quite frankly, at home.
But it's not that easy to explain the differences between Bordeaux and Burgundy. So I think my question, what was first, wine or spirits, is nil, because it's definitely wine, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. I think because spirits are stronger. I know that I came to spirits in my very late teens because they were stronger. I was introduced to wine in a very European way, actually, when I was around about 13 years old, at lunch, a glass of wine, and it started there. I was just unlucky that my parents had very bad taste in wine, so I didn't really learn anything until I was 17, 18 at school.
Okay, I see. Colin, may I ask, how was this special period of lockdown for you?
It was an interesting time, which I'm sure it's been for most people. But for me, I don't, as a writer, I don't mind a little bit of solitude. So it's given me time to write. It's also given me time to think. I live in a very fast-paced world, especially with the new TV show and so on. We're constantly in production and planning, and then filming, and then editing, and all that sort of world. So to have some time just to sit back and think has been absolutely fantastic. And then also to start thinking about different drinks. With the Three Drinkers, we started in Scotch, and we did Scotch, and we've got plans. We can talk about that later. But my world was consumed by that, and it was really lovely to come back to thinking about other drinks. So I don't know, for example, tonight I'm drinking a really lovely tequila. I have been discovering much more in the world of Central European spirits, for example. I've got some Brugger samples still here, and I've been tasting them. And also gin. I mean, people say that gin is on the decline, and I think those people are within the industry, but in reality, the consumer is loving gin, and so am I. So yeah, lots going on.
Absolutely. I'm definitely with you. I mean, you had lots of different online activities during this lockdown period. I was really astonished to see what popped up. You've been on Instagram. There was a new podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Was that just idea like this? What are we going to do? Or
The podcast was serendipity. We'd already planned it, and the first one that we recorded, I've just seen Toby pop up. Hey, Toby. Yeah, we recorded that one before everybody went into lockdown, and it went very well. And then suddenly lockdown came, and it just seemed lucky, really, the right thing to do. Everybody suddenly was starting to go online, get their information, get their entertainment online, rather than going to events or going to clubs or pubs and so on. And yeah, we've continued it. The numbers on our podcast have been brilliant for obvious reasons. Lots of people are listening. So yeah, that was one thing. The other thing, I suppose, was that we set up this sort of subsidiary of the TV show that dealt with digital entertainment and also digital campaigning. And it's a commercial arm, I suppose, to the TV show. And that has been fantastic because obviously the big companies or any of the alcoholic companies really can't do any event marketing. So they're relying online. They're relying on using credible drinks journalists and companies to promote their materials online whilst they can't do events. So our company has had a lot to do with that as well, which is a different world for me. I won't deny it. I'm a slightly older generation than my colleagues. My colleagues have definitely led this one, especially Adi, who is at the forefront of this sort of thing. But it's made us very busy, so we're quite lucky with that.
Absolutely. Tobias just says, the Three Drinkers do lockdown was one of my only escape from lockdown cabin fever. So it seems you definitely had the good idea. I mean, how was that technically? I can see Instagram is only for 2 people. You're obviously 3. So was the big discussion who's going on, or did you share in between? Or
it was complicated. First of all, we needed to work out how we could get our 3 different voices to sound moderately the same, being recorded in 3 different locations. So Helena already has a room that is well padded. It's not echo. There's no echo chamber there. And AD has a room that's quite large, so the echo is very slow. So they sound quite flat. As you can probably hear in the room that I have here today, it's quite echoey. I've got a smallish room with lots of bouncy surfaces for sound. So I have to put up because I'm a photographer, I've got a photographic rig for backgrounds and so on. I need to put that up halfway across my room. I need to hang a duvet over it. I need to sit on my sofa so that's nice and soft, close all the curtains, and try and reduce the echo in the room so that it sounds okay. I never sound as good as the other 2, except for the content, of course. But it's tricky. I mean, but we're getting around it, and it sounds okay. And the director seems to be happy enough with what we're managing to get. But all the interaction between us all comes from Zoom. We get on a Zoom call, and we see each other, and we interact with each other, and we record the sound completely separately on different microphones and recording equipment. So, yeah, 2 systems. One that's visual interaction, and one that is the recording bit of it, which has been the more tricky bit of it for me. I'm not a techie.
I can see. Well, I think everywhere lockdown is now almost done. You've been out for tasting. I know you've been out for tasting because I should have been scheduled on the same panel for IWSC.
I know.
How was tasting?
It was terrible. You weren't there.
Oh, come on. You're too kind.
It was very interesting, actually. I was tasting a mixture at the moment, tasting a mixture of world whiskies and gin were the two things that I was tasting. We had smaller panels so that we could social distance between the rooms. They put up perspex screens between the desks. The people who were bringing us the drinks all had masks. But what I found very interesting was that all of that initially felt a bit strange, but actually it was the same people. It was the same staff. It was the same tasting environment. It was just the same, really. And what was important was the liquids. That very quickly became the important part of it. When we're judging, it's about the liquid. And we had a fantastic, gins. We had a record number of gins this year. I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to say how many gins we had this year, but it was a lot, which is great. It means there are more gins being produced. There are more people building distilleries that can create great gins. And on the world whiskey front, wow, we had some incredible whiskies. Now, I can't give much away, but the amount of gold outstandings from countries you wouldn't expect were astonishing.
I believe. I mean, you know the numbers from last year, gin-wise. Was it more than last year?
It was more than last year.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
So you've been the brave ones.
Yeah, we had a lot in a shorter amount of time as well. When I was when we were chatting earlier and we were talking about tasting 80 spirits a day, that was the gin.
Okay. Toby just posted, so if he posts it, I'm allowed to show it.
Fantastic.
This is unbelievable. This is insane.
And I'm not an alcoholic yet. It's amazing. I mean, no, to be honest, I did not taste that many gins. I tasted some of them. There were lots of panels. We're all very professional.
Okay. So you enjoyed your days, obviously.
I did, actually. It was very nice. We taste in an area at the moment that's outside London. I know that's going to change, but in this time of lockdown, it was rather lovely being able to actually travel somewhere. I went by car, travel somewhere, and work outside of my home environment. It was, I think, almost a slight excitement.
Oh, definitely, I can see. After so many weeks in lockdown, you love to go out and see colleagues. But as I understood, it was smaller panels, only 4 persons on a panel.
That's right. We normally have for 5 or sometimes 6, but smaller panels. So the social distancing was completely recognized. I think that worked very well. There was the odd occasion, actually, which is very interesting, where you would get a split panel. So 2 people would love a particular liquid, 2 people would really not like a particular liquid. And what you really needed was that 5th person to sort of make your mind up for you to a certain extent. But we didn't have that. So we had to have really good, proper discussions on liquids, which was fun. I enjoyed that. I've just seen Dom.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. Dom, it's been far too long, and I hope it's not too long until we see you again.
Definitely. Well, I can see smaller panels used to be more efficient, but if you got a split panel, it's a never-ending story discussing it out. So
yeah, there were a few quite hard discussions, actually. It was very interesting.
Good. Any special things you can remember? I mean, you've been on World Whiskey. You said unbelievable countries. What was the most uncommon country you tasted whiskey from?
Well, we had some fantastic whiskey, and I can't really give anything away, but Finland was producing some great rye whiskies. I think I can say that. we had some very interesting whiskies from the subcontinent. Interesting in a good way. Interestingly, this is the country that we didn't get any whiskey from, but I tasted some recently. It was from Azerbaijan, a 5-year-old malt whiskey from Azerbaijan. It's not part of the IWSC. It was just something that I acquired actually when I went to Azerbaijan, not before lockdown, obviously. It was surprisingly good. One wonders about whiskey sometimes in terms of where they actually come from. And for example, in Japan, they frequently import Scotch whiskey, put it into their blends, and so on. This was a Azerbaijani single malt, 5 years old, and it was really very good. I was shocked, to say the least.
Okay.
But so that was a surprise recently. The other things that have been a real surprise actually is I remember coming out to your fantastic show, the Whiskey Festival by the Seaside, the 2 ships. You've got the full bottle there. Oh, amazing! I've still got.
Yeah.
Well,
see, there is still some left, and whenever you need some, I send you some more.
Thank you. Well, I've got Arthur's blend. Sorry, this is this blend, and this is my blend. And if you look at the color,
well, it's almost the same. It's almost the same.
There is a distinct, though. Yours is definitely darker, and I will admit, your blend is far more lovely.
We did both together. We did both together, and that was real serious fun.
It was great fun. Can you remind us what went into these blends?
Yeah, well, it was the first 3-country blend we ever did. It's single malts from 3 countries. There is a heavy sherried one from Senft, the German, South German distillery. There is some of Steinhauser, the first Lake Constance distillery. There is Pfanner in. There is a Broger distillery in. There is Sentis malt in. And there is some from the small casks from Sentis View distillery in. That was the blend we originally did. And I think during that tasting, people quite liked it. Yeah,
I agree. And it's really interesting. Now, I mean, this has sat in a little bottle for some time and married. Sometimes spirits take a bit of time to marry.
Which one have you got there? Yours? Arthur's or Colin's blend?
I think I've firstly poured yours. I'm about to pour mine. I've just poured mine. And incredibly different. Of course, mine is much better, but you know.
I know, definitely.
I said at the beginning.
You might have heard on Saturday is the first Austrian whiskey day, or the first day of Austrian whiskey. They have proposed. Yeah, definitely. We did an interview yesterday with the head of the Austrian Whiskey Association and some distillers like Broger and Pfanner.
It's interesting. I get mine. I'm getting a little oil, sort of like linseed oil. But I don't know whether you guys get linseed oil in Austria. We rub it on cricket bats. We're a bit weird. Rapeseed, I suppose, is another thing to it. But yours, I'm afraid I've got to give it to you. Yours is absolutely lovely. It's fruity. It's complex. It's
heavy. It's just heavy sherry. That's the point.
You're being very polite. It's more than that.
One of my students. We do have the final sommelier exams tomorrow, the spirit sommelier exams, and one of my students just wrote, "I shall bring some to taste tomorrow." So I will take some. I will take some of the blend tomorrow for them to taste.
Wonderful.
Well, as we have something nice to sip now, our own blend. Can you tell us a little bit about the 3 drinkers? How were they founded? What was the original idea behind? I'm pretty sure in the English areas everybody knows the 3 drinkers, with us here, it's still not that big. We definitely should push it. So whenever you're interested, you need to go there. You can get all the information about the three drinkers, and your program is up on Amazon Prime.
It is, yeah. We are an Amazon Prime program. How did it come about? Well, initially, we were three friends. I knew Helena from the wine world, and I knew Adi from the spirits world. And we were sort of just friends. We were interacting with each other. I introduced the two of them. And we knew that we wanted to do some video work, but we weren't sure what. And we weren't exactly sober in a pub in Soho called Milroy's. And we just thought, God, wouldn't it be amazing if we could have a show that was about drinks, but also about travel and food and other things, but about drink? What would we call it? And so we came up with the name of the three drinkers. And then through some serendipity, Adi had a really good contact at Amazon, and so did I. And it happened to be the same person. And they gave us some great advice about making a TV show. And that advice was, okay, you can take your idea or treatment to a production company, and they will present that to all the different TV programs around the world, Channel 4 or what it might be, BBC One, BBC Two, and try and get funding for it.
Mm-hmm.
That'll take you quite a long time, even to get the production company before they push it to a channel. We could buy it from you. That's what Amundsen said. But you will lose all control. It will become our show, and you will present our show. That's the way it will work, and you then basically become employees. That's fine. Christ, if you want to get on TV, that's what you want to do. We'll do that. That's not a problem. But no, we wanted more than that. We wanted to try and show the world of spirits and the world of drink in our own way. And we were very lucky that the person at Amazon said, okay, there's a third way. I really love your idea. If you can get this financed elsewhere, then we will distribute it for you. And we'll distribute it for you in America, Germany, UK, Japan. Straight. No questions. We love this idea. You give us a program, we'll distribute it for you. So we did that. And then as soon as we gave them the program, they went, okay, this is really cool. We really like this program. We'll distribute it further. So they pushed it. And we're now in 172 different countries and territories around the world. They seem to love the program. We've got some pretty damn good viewing figures. A lot of them are in the United States, obviously, because Amazon Prime is the United States, and the UK, because we're an English-speaking country. But we're growing in viewers around Europe. Surprisingly, the .de, which is, I think, covering Switzerland, the Benelux countries, Austria, and so on, and that is our third largest territory after the United States and the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
But there is no translation at all. It's all in English.
Yeah, it's all in English with subtitles, which may not be 100% accurate. So as subtitles are usually not 100% accurate. But yeah, we've got a reasonable following, small but reasonable following from Central Europe, which is lovely. I think we're talking about things that Central Europe like, which is not just drink and spirits and so on. There's the whole travel aspect to it too. And there's culture and food, and there's going to be much more of that coming as well.
Absolutely, that would have been my next question. So, what is the idea behind it? I mean, there is, as far as I recognize, you already said food and travel and culture, but there's also an educational aspect behind it. You seem to be the guy that presents the knowledge.
Well,
so
that'll change. I did in the first series have the most knowledge on Scotch. It's true, but we're about to hit a second series, which we are hopefully, as long as there's not a second wave of COVID, we will film in October, and that will be in Ireland, and it will cover many more things than just whiskey. Irish whiskey is fantastic, and we will definitely cover Irish whiskey, but there's beer, and there's gin, and there's poitín, and then there's the whole food thing that's going on in Ireland, which is a real explosion at the moment. I think Britain had it about 10 years ago, and I think Ireland is having it now. It's just starting to really grow. Their food scene's amazing. Their cheeses and weird things like black pudding, and it's incredible. So we're going to go over there, and we're going to explore all things that are sort of Irish and drinks and culinary.
So are you going to change the name? Because at the moment it says the three drinkers do Scotch whiskey.
Yep. Well, it will still be the three drinkers, but it'll be the three drinkers in Ireland is what the next series will be called. We decided that with the first series, it was all about Scotch, and that was fabulous. I mean, as a Scotch lover, and that is where my expertise lies, that was brilliant. I loved it. But we felt with Ireland that there was so much to discover beyond Irish whiskey. Scotch is Scotch, very well known. In Ireland, we felt that we needed to go beyond that. And also going forward, so that the three drinkers will not just do drinks, the three drinkers do Scotch, the three drinkers do Irish whiskey. It'll be more regional. So the three drinkers do Ireland or France or the USA, or it'll be much more regional in the future. And therefore we can incorporate everything else. Drinks will still be the hook.
I can see. So that whatever has been produced until now is season 1. So you're going now with Ireland into season 2.
That's right. Yeah. So
as many episodes planned as on the first season.
We hope so. So when we did season 1 with Scotch, we did 4 episodes. And then we came back and we did an extra 3 episodes later, and we will try and do the same with Ireland. We're going to definitely do 4 episodes to begin with, and then we'll look at the ideas of perhaps, can we go back? Do we want to go back? Is there more to discover? What's our feedback? And also the series that's coming after that, which we're already into, and I really can't talk about it. I'm really sorry. It's how much that kind of intrudes as well, and whether we need to go there first. And this is sort of no disrespect to any particular area. It's very much a production thing on where we need to be able to go and film and when we can go and film. But yes, we will certainly have 4 episodes out on Ireland.
I mean, it's always complicated to say. You said you filmed the first season in 2 goes, a first and a second one. I thought the second one was far more spontaneous in filming, or at least it looked more spontaneous, like being at the beach, jumping into the water, which is just crazy in Scotland. I know the temperatures there.
Yeah, that was definitely for camera. Christ, it was cold. Yeah, I mean, obviously our first 4 episodes were our first 4 episodes. I had no TV experience before that. The other 2 did have. But and also it was done to a certain budget. We wanted to get something done in a particular time scale, so we did it. The second part of Scotland is much more sumptuous. It is much more involved. We have not just the 3 of us going around from place to place. Some of us go off and talk to different people by ourselves. There are those different aspects of the show. The editing of the show is much more slick, and that's progression. I think that most shows will go through that. If you look at some of the old episodes of Top Gear, for example, which I love, they're pretty terrible in terms of their production values. And we're the same. I think, we will grow. The content will be fine, but in terms of our production values and quality, that will grow. And there are things that we still want to adapt. There are still things that we want to improve, and we'll do that.
So that means there could be another season playing in Europe. You definitely would be open to come into the German language areas, I guess.
Totally, absolutely. I think one thing that's very interesting about our whole series, and we're not shy about this. We create TV by using branded content. We've got an amazing distributor in Amazon. The show is not owned by Amazon.
Yeah, sure.
We own the show, and to make the show, we involve the brands to be able to then afford to make the show. It's not all branded content. There's a mixture. So tourism boards and so on help make the show. Brands make the show. Even lifestyle brands make the show. So it's a big melting pot of finance, which we need to make this show. Absolutely. Coming to Central Europe would be incredible. I mean, even on not the alcoholic side of things, in Austria, a brand I love to talk to, which I'm just starting to, Red Bull is Austrian.
Well, that guy has his own TV channel, so it shouldn't be a problem to talk to him.
So yes, there are absolutely. Central Europe would be amazing to come to, and I'm sure there is lots of support out there for international television. We've seen it in the past. I mean, there's incredible stuff that's being done. So yeah, Central Europe, including Austria, would be a great place to be.
Well, whoever is listening, get up, contact Colin. I'm pretty sure you will find a deal. You mentioned 172 countries coverage.
Countries and territories.
Yeah. Has anything changed for you since you're out on Amazon?
It's a bit weird walking into a pub and going, "Aren't you that bloke?" That's happened a few times. Mostly in Scotland, because the first series was on Scotch. But it's happened elsewhere, even in actually my just literally local street, which was very bizarre. Someone going, "Yes, you're the whiskey man."
Really?
Yeah, it was very odd. But to a certain extent, we're very lucky in that most of our audience, probably about 55% of it, is in the United States. So the UK is slightly smaller, and then there's the whole of Europe, and then the rest of the world as well that's looking at us. So I still get to lead a normal life, which is wonderful. Yes, I'm not inundated with stardom, thankfully. I'm not that sort of bloke.
So hitting the street in the US must be quite hard for you, or harder for you than in the UK?
It's interesting, actually. Yeah, last year we went out to headline the Napa Valley Film Festival, which
you showed me photos.
It was great fun. It was awesome, and it was lovely to dip into a world which is California, and kind of you were a part of the film festival. Everybody knew who you were, and you were a thing. Which it's surreal, very American. Not very real to a certain extent, and then you get to do that and then leave and go back to ordinary life where your odd person might recognize you down the pub, but generally speaking, you have that anonymity again. But yeah, in California, it was quite different.
So which of both situations do you like more?
Personally, I quite like the anonymity.
Okay.
I'm far like
you like America as long as you can come back.
Yeah, I mean, I love America. Don't get me wrong. especially New York. I spent a lot of time in New York over the last few years, and also some fabulous times in Napa Valley. But as much as I love America, could I actually live there? I'm not sure. At the moment, I think I love London too much.
Oh, it's a beautiful city. Seeing you nosing on that whiskey brings me back. I know you did a limited run of the Three Drinkers whiskey.
Oh, yes.
How did it work out? I mean, I know you've been sold out within hours or days, but
It was sold pretty quickly. I didn't know you were. Honestly, everybody, I had no idea he was going to ask, but I do have.
that's your very personal bottle.
Yeah. This is, if I can.
Bottle 1 of 300. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And you cracked it open.
God, yeah. It's too good to leave closed. We were very lucky. It's an unusual whiskey, actually. It's a blended malt.
Did you disclose people what it is, or is it an undisclosed thing?
I can give reasonable amount of information away, actually, without breaking any rules.
Okay.
I can say we bought the whiskey from the Edrington Group.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blended malt.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that the whiskey had some components in it that were very obvious. So there's an obvious. Okay, this is opinion rather than fact, but we think there's a very obvious Highland Park element. There's a tiny little bit of salinity, a touch of smoke on the background. There's a really lovely sweet note to it, and we think that might be Glen. And there's a sherry note to it, which could either come from Glenrothes or Macallan. We think it's probably Glenrothes, considering when this was made 17 years ago and so on. But the interesting part about it is that the spirits were all put into the same cask from their natural state. So from being new make, they weren't blended together afterwards and married together. It was, we think, they put these different spirits into casks all at the same time, which is very unusual.
I can second that opinion. I had a very good friend of mine working at Glentarret, a German guy, the German grouse. Greetings if he's watching. And I visited him more than once, but he took me into the warehouse, and there were quite a big range of casks which were stated as Glentarret malt. And he told me also those casks were blends from the distilleries with different age states. They never came. They've never really been bottled. You could get some bottles at Glentarret, but they didn't sell it widely. So that story is quite interesting because I already heard that before.
I've never heard that from another source. So that's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, and I would kind of agree with that. You know, it's easy to be pushed into an idea of something because of the flavor profile, and somebody tells you there's blueberries in it, so you taste blueberries.
You've proven in this series that you have a good nose.
Relatively, it's quite big, so you know. But yeah, I get that. I understand the story behind this, and unfortunately, if you want to buy any, wait till it comes up at auction because somebody's bound to flip it at some point. But I'm afraid there's none left.
So there will definitely be a second edition with season 2, I guess, maybe an Irish one.
We will be doing more. What I'd quite like to do, and this is not preempting, it's not saying that we're going to, but what I'd quite like to do is I'd like to do another Scotch blend, whether it's a malt blend or whether it's a blend. I'd quite like to do more Scotch, as well as doing something Irish. And the Irish thing may be whiskey, it may be gin. We don't know yet, but we will be bringing out more products, absolutely. And the only thing that really marries the products together is accessibility. We don't want to produce anything that is ridiculously expensive. This particular whiskey, for example, was 17-year-old blended malt, 14 pounds. Sorry, it was £39.95. It was under £40. It was not about making money. It was about producing something that we thought was excellent, that people could buy. If this was in small numbers, so you had to be pretty sharp to get it quickly. But people who follow us, they're in with a shout.
What I can offer you, whenever you want to do a gin, you come over, we lock ourselves in the lab, and we do the recipe together.
That'd be a fantastic month. Love it.
So can be done within 1 or 2 days. No worries.
Okay, I'll happily take a month. No problem. But no, that would be awesome. Creating a Central European or an Austrian gin, that'd be cool.
Well, it could essentially be the Three Drinkers gin, and we do whatever you want. Which brings us into the last topic. What are your future plans? Do you have travels coming up, or is everything furloughed at the moment, cancelled at the moment?
Well, we know that current plans. We intend to film in Ireland for our second series in October. We were initially going to be going over in August, but that hasn't particularly worked. Well, it's not that it hasn't worked out. We might be able to go over there, but it would be tricky. And rather than trying to compromise anybody's sort of social distancing circumstances or security, we've decided that what we'll do is have some footage shot out there by an Irish team that we can then voice over and refer back to. But the bulk of the Irish show will be shot in October.
Okay.
As long as there's not a big second wave. I mean, as you know, everything's very up in the air. But October is when we tend to film. And in theory, beginning of next year, we will have a new series out. That's the plan.
Cool. Fingers crossed for those plans.
Yeah.
Any more competitions this year, or mostly writing or doing the podcasts?
Yeah, we've still got to judge Scotch.
Yeah, I know. This should be up in September, and it should be somewhere in Scotland. And I told them I want to please keep me on the list. I'm pretty sure I can travel later this year.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
Well, you might be lucky.
If they are watching, please keep me on that list. I would love to join in.
You might be lucky because the last conversations I was having was that there's a possibility that because people like Richard and so on can't travel, or it's difficult for them to be in certain circumstances with other people, because if any of the master blenders lost their senses of smell and so on, that'd be disastrous. So there is an idea that it might happen remotely, which means they would send samples. I mean, I think this literally. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn.
I mean, we discussed that earlier, also for the common touching, but I think just by the sheer size of IWSC, that's quite hard to accomplish. So we will see what happens.
I mean, yes. I mean, there are a lot of samples. I agree. It has been done. I do judge for another, not on whiskey actually. This year, I did liqueurs and had about 150 to 200 new liqueur samples sitting around.
You mean the other IS?
Not even the other IS actually. No.
Okay.
No, it was for Whiskey Magazine. Whiskey Magazine do the Drinks Awards. So
okay.
it was
But they always send out the samples.
They always send out the samples, so they're set up for it. It shows it can be done. And this year there were a lot of samples.
Well,
So it can be done. What I feel is that maybe not this year because it's incredibly difficult. It's the new thing, and the logistics are almost impossible. But in the future, remote judging, but judging together, I think could easily be a thing where samples are sent out, we chat like we are now.
I totally agree, and it's coming up and up. So I just received 3 big packs today from IWSC for the brandy panel. So there are competitions that do it, and I had a talk last week with our friend from France. So the new ISS award, the International Sugarcane Awards, they do send it out to all the judges from the very beginning, not only because it's COVID, but that's the idea. They don't have to travel. They don't have to be jet lagged. They sit at home. They do it relaxed in their own environment.
Yes. And also,
Makes sense.
let's be fair, if an organization sends out samples and it's all blind, we're all judges, we all know each other. If we wanted to taste together, we could if we wanted to. It's not a problem with the whole Zoom and so on. So that's not. It's not like they're having to organize that. They could if they wanted to. But if we wanted to taste together, then that would not be an issue at all. Garner other people's opinions, which I think is a good thing. When you're stuck on a particular liquid and you don't know why it tastes a particular way, some of us have more expertise in other areas. I mean, you have fantastic expertise in terms of process and why something might taste a particular way. So to garner that knowledge, let's do this.
Well, there are some discussions on the table. There will be surprising news. I can't disclose it or undisclose it now, but you will see it coming up. So there is quite some intriguing plans for next year when it comes to IWSC. Hopefully it will work out. And yeah, we're almost up 48 minutes. It's been a pleasure having you with me.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been enjoyable. Always good to see you, of course.
Hope we can see us very soon live, in real life again. And let's say bye-bye to our guests. We both keep in the backstage area, but it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much. See you all next week. Yes, please.
Who have you got next week? Let's advertise it. Who have you got? Who's coming?
Next week, we have Joel Harrison Green, who talks about his new gin book, which will be out is out in August, mid-August, in German language. So he's giving us some bits and bytes and head on his new gin book next Thursday. And thanks very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Stand.